Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, welcome to the Beacon TVL show. It is me, co-founder Chris, head coach, director of client success and weird stuff, here with one of our newest panel guests. Excited to talk to JD. Is it Seraphin? Is that correct? Or Seraphine?
Seraphin, yeah.
There we go. Perfect. We met JD over in Denver at ETH Denver. He was at our Beacon house for one of our networking events, and yeah, great to have you here, JD. Really excited when you talked to me about Rainmaker back in Denver, and now it's launched on base with some plans, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But excited to have you here on the panel. Thanks for joining
Excited
us
to,
today.
yeah, excited to be here, buddy. I mean, it was interesting. We actually connected in ETH Denver, and you guys have an amazing community, and also like your team. And I just love what you guys are doing. And I think the mission about around financial empowerment and educating people around the kind of generational opportunity that exists with digital assets and Web3 and DeFi. And yeah, I think what you guys are doing is it's God's work. So
Appreciate it,
looking
man.
forward to it.
Yeah, when you when I knew you were going to be on, I was like, I got to wear a hat because I don't think I've seen JD without a hat, so I got to wear a hat as well. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask real quick while we get started here. How tell me, how was Token 2049? I know you just got back from there, so what a whirlwind of events those were all. And
I
I
mean,
guess
there
you went
was
to
like
Breakpoint as well, right?
there was like 1,000 side events. It was craziness, man. I mean, look, the cool thing is it's just like there's so much happening there, and I always love to tap in with a lot of my friends that I've just been connected to in crypto for a long time that are all doing really cool, amazing stuff. And then for us, it's like, for Rainmaker as a company, obviously we're continuing to expand the awareness of our brand, especially in APAC right now, is super important.
Yeah,
The US, we're still navigating this kind of era of regulatory uncertainty and elections, and so for us to go to APAC and as part of our strategy of making sure we have a presence there, it was great. It was a good trip, and I did create a blockchain week right before that. Spoke at a few events there, which was very cool. And I think what I will say is that I think the energy in Korea or in Asia, really in general, I was in Hong Kong last fall, and I feel like the energy was a little stronger last fall. I feel like Asia really rushed into this cycle hard, and then I think they kind of a lot of retail there took it on the chin a little bit, just in terms of the middle of this cycle has gone kind of funky, in terms of like just as the nature of this space, the ups and the downs and everything else, right? So I think you know that's just one thing I sensed in Korea is it felt a little more. I think everybody just because we'd kind of gone through this periods of a few months of I think more ups and downs and more downs and ups than people were expecting. Like people thought, okay, the bull runs back last spring, and so everybody's just charging ahead, and they kind of forget that inside of the larger cycle, there's these micro cycles where, in crypto, sometimes things turn and they go down, and then we go flat and we go sideways, and it's not all just like up and to the right, and so. I feel like, token though is different. I mean, token, it's hard, like, because I feel like it's less of a accurate representation of sentiment because everybody's coming there, pumped up, excited to push their thing. Versus like Korea, what I did like about Korea is that like the quality of people like that were there was really high and concentrated. And most people, if they don't know it in your community, like the penetration of crypto adoption in Korea is massive. It's like
massive.
it's countrywide. I mean, they actually don't transact in the same venues as a lot of other countries. There's a couple exchanges, Upbit and BitHum, and those are like the two exchanges that pretty much dominate that entire market. And it's interesting. There's a lot more. The Koreans went hard, especially going all the way back to like the first ICO boom. And so being in Korea, I really enjoy the food there is amazing. The culture
Of
is amazing.
course.
The people are so like there's just this culture of like respect there. I don't say it's as much as like Japan. It's a little not quite to the level of Japan, but it's still like there's other Asian countries that I won't name that, that definitely don't have that cultural thing, which is again everywhere's different. But it was really, I love Korea. It was beautiful, and Singapore's fun. It was my first time there. Seeing the F1 races and the excitement and all that is great. But we're kind of in a mode where we've been building for 6 years. So to be at a place where we're on the verge of actually like seeing, our token actually finally go live, as we've built this network, and we've got, I think, over 200,000 validators in the network. We've got, 240,000 connected wallets, 180,000 unique wallets. And not only that, like in terms of like the data, which to me can feel a bit sanitary if we just talk about numbers, but the vision of where we're going has never been more clear to say this network we built to be able to be leveraged to power, this decentralized AI ecosystem where, enterprises on one side can actually access humans in the loop to help them train their AI models. And I think a lot of our focus early on is on smaller enterprises that need support as in the AI front, but then to utilize the infrastructure. So to me, like blockchain and maturing, the technology maturing, is it getting to places doing things like we're doing, where there's real world use cases where, that verifiable, mutable chain, that is that the that trustless network that can power all types of different solutions. And we talk about it a lot in our company, which is this, formalization of informal value, right? And I think we look at AI, we see a huge opportunity there where there's a ton that's being extracted already from all of us. And we're like, okay, how do we flip the paradigm early on and say, no, let's voluntarily contribute, but also be rewarded and compensated. I think, Rainmaker's really positioned itself well to be right at that confluence of AI and Web3 technology.
That's awesome, and I'm excited to talk more about this in a minute. Um, but for those of you who have not joined us before, normally this is definitely where we feature a panelist or a full panel, and then we also talk about what's going on in Web3 and in decentralized finance and DeFi. So we're gonna go ahead and tackle some news things real quick, JD. Then we'll get right back to Raiinmaker and make it the spotlight of today's show, if you're good with that.
I'm always good. Let's go, baby.
Excellent. Well, Uptober has been a little bit not Uptober. It's kind of been an interesting ride so far. What I wanted to first do, we're getting some people just kind of rolling in. If you haven't been to our community, it's called Total Value Locked. Wanted to bring that up real quick at school.com/beacon. This is our free community, and it is absolutely free. We're getting close to 1,000 members. We launched this about a week before ETH Denver, JD. So we've actually been bringing a lot of people in, a lot of people seeing the products and what we offer. So we're on our way to 1,000 like-minded individuals, action takers. It's been amazing, really building that. And coming up with our next monthly boot camp, actually right after permissionless. So we're a little tentative on permissionless calls for next week. So just kind of keep your eyes peeled for anybody who's almost called it Beat the Banks, Total Value Locked. Just join us at school.com/beacon, completely free. Learn from the best in the business to go from zero to DeFi pro the way we did it. So wanted to bring that up. With that said, we are going to permissionless next week. If you're going to be there in Salt Lake City, link up with me. Happy to walk the floor with you. Happy to spend some time with you, especially if you're in one of our communities. When we have these things, like we did in ETH Denver, I do face-to-face coaching. I do portfolio breakdowns. And, we just kind of get you in with the culture. So best way to really learn more about Web3 and DeFi is to go to these events where we're going to and see it for yourself. With that said, the market took a pretty fat dump yesterday. And that is, of course, probably led by the events with Israel and Iran, with Iran sending a whole bucket load of missiles into the Iron Dome and quite a few getting through. So this heightened tension caused a lot of market panic. I just want to say to anybody who is holding Bitcoin, don't sell your Bitcoin. Ultimately, there are all types of institutions and whales waiting for you to dump Bitcoin so they can get an entry. I mean, we're seeing, I know, JD, you've been watching the news, tons of big protocols, tons of big institutions, ETF holders, just buying more Bitcoin at these levels to help with what's going to be the next leg up. So overall, red. But we always come back from this kind of stuff. Just don't sell your Bitcoin. They're just waiting to buy more. So Just stick with the
You're
plan.
saying maybe just sell your Doge. If you got Doge, that's okay, but maybe
You
not
know,
your Bitcoin.
I'm not saying to sell anything. People are, I mean,
I'm just kidding.
everybody
I'm
knows.
kidding. Yeah, no, I know. I'm with you. Yeah, here's the thing that they say in Wall Street, like when there's blood in the streets, right? That's when
Exactly.
there's opportunity, and that's when the smart investors are buying, right? And when fear, people are selling out of fear. I mean, in general, this is probably one of the biggest psychological challenges, which you guys, I'm sure, are educating people on, is like getting out of that like emotional cycle is a big, I think, piece to being able to participate in this, in this, crypto investing landscape in a sustainable way and maintain your sanity, but also like to succeed at it. And it's a challenging thing because it's human nature to get caught in the emotions of the moment. And I think the main thing is always in general, like, um, the more that we can understand, we can't control what's happening in Iran or the Middle East or
Right.
Israel. We can't control what's happening in the crypto market, but we can control the energy and frequency that we each carry, right? And I talk to my kids about this a lot, and I think it actually applies to this. It's like, as an investor or someone who's trading or participating, like the more that you can maintain your center, right? And not respond to just the sea of, and look at that, hex is somehow going up against everything else, plus 55%. This is Richard Hart pumping his own bag. That's
There
wonderful.
it is.
But anyways, the point is like, how do you maintain your center? And I think, part of it is, and this is kind of throwing it back to you, it's through methodology and process, right? Because if you
Right.
have a process, you can rely on that instead of just what the market is signaling you to feel. So what is the methodology, and obviously TVL and what you guys are doing? I think you're creating a structure for people to not just rely on emotions and gambling, but actually have a process.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's all about having a system, having a plan. I get people all the time ask me, what should I do? I'm like, just stick to your plan. There's so much stuff out there that's going to make you FOMO and farm emotionally, but you got to stick to the plan. And that's the thing, is we all know it's going to happen. It's all a matter of how you get there. And like I mentioned to people all the time, we have a lot of people who have made a lot of money in crypto who are in our group. The biggest part isn't making the money, it's keeping it, right? So being safe, being secure, doing the right things so you just don't flush all that down the toilet is the biggest part of ultimately being in a group like ours, whether you're in our mastermind or in our free group. That's the edge you're looking for, because doing this alone, how do you do it alone? There's so much out there, right?
It's impossible. I mean, to be honest, like you got to imagine you're not only going up against like sophisticated corporations that have large teams and budgets and experts across various fields, but they also have a technological advantage between bots and everything else. Like, so you have to, in order to like find, and it's not, again, there's so many ways to play the game, and you don't need to go head to head with a guy who's got algorithmic bots that are like snipering launches and
Exactly.
in and out. Like you're not going to win that game unless you're really set up to win it, and to do that you have to have the right stuff. And I think for your community, what's more important is that there are ways for ordinary people to come in and win big still, if you play your cards right and you have the right strategy and approach. And I think it's a challenging thing because human emotion will want to come in and say, in a moment like this, I mean, what happens if Israel nukes Iran? Which honestly, none of us knows what happens in that scenario. Like
Right.
the cascade of effects, and what does it force the U.S. to do, and Russia or China? Like, does this boil over into something like an actual global conflict? And obviously, the hope is not. We're holding the space that the Middle East has been a hotbed for conflict for for many a decade at this point. It's not like a new thing. Hopefully, it can cool down and at least stay as a regional conflict that eventually we figure out how to unwind. But for now, and inside of the cycle, and I would like to ask you this, Chris,
Yeah.
what is your feeling or opinion on it? Because like honestly, I've heard some people say like, hey, this is like a temporary little, and it also inside of our cycle, by the way, we had a nice push in like kind of 1 2 week period. Usually after that, there is some sort of a correction that kind of we settle in, the rubber band kind of pulls again, and we launch back up past even where we were, a week ago. So what is your feeling about where this is going? Is it that, or is it potentially we're, conflict, if it expands, we go into some other darker red waters?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's hard to say, right? Because there's so many interesting pardon me, just factors together when you think about it, right? So we're in a halving year. So normally the up leg from there is normally, the year after the halving. We're also in a situation where we just got 50 point rate cut, basis point rate cut last week, starting to stir the waters. You've got tons of institutions coming down. We have Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. We have major conferences going on, and bullishness is at an all-time high, with all of these all colliding to provide the perfect storm. Honestly, war is one of those things that is hard to describe, but it brings kind of everything down with it. But I do think where we are in crypto, holding spot is holding spot, but farming yield, doing all the things that we talk about in our group, also equally is important, because having your money work for you, regardless of what the market conditions are, because we push what we call an all-weather portfolio, is key. So having an all-weather portfolio, really, you're worrying about DCAing, and you're worrying just making sure that your yield is the math is mathing, and that your pools are not retired. That's really about it. So for us, we're just weathering the storm. That's why we're Beacon. That's why our logo is a lighthouse, right? So, we don't really worry about that kind of stuff too much. Obviously, we care, of course, about P&L and stuff like that. But overall, it's one of those things where, as long as you have an all-weather portfolio, as long as you have a plan and you're sticking to that plan, you should be fine.
Yeah, and I think in building that portfolio, when the tide does turn and the weather becomes good, and we see green across the market, or green candles, then you reap the benefits of what you're yielding from the farming and all the other smart things you're doing to build a portfolio that's diverse and resistant to like various market conditions. So that's beautiful, man. I think what you guys are doing, like I said, it's God's work, because, and I'm not religious, but I say it like in the sense that, empowering each individual human financially is like central to like even my passion as individually, and Rainmaker as a company, because I believe that elevating people from, that struggle that we get mired in around survival, to work in that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as we can raise people up, that's where they can actually be like, what am I uniquely gifted to bring to the world? And so I believe very much in that, and so I think what you guys are doing is potentially a big force for that.
I should pass you a kickback or something once we're done. I appreciate you, all the good words you're saying. I appreciate
No,
that.
no, no, no kickback, bro. I mean, the whole thing is, the way this works is we win together as a species,
Exactly.
as one race, the human race, and I think that's the posture we maintain, especially in times like this where you know Israel, Palestine, Iran, Jew, Muslim, whatever the conflicts along these artificial lines that we've created, identities that we've assumed. When we really boil it all away, we're all human beings on this planet, trying to make the most of this human experience. And so I think I feel like you guys, along with, us at Rainmaker and so many other entrepreneurs and companies, are building what I call the new world. And so in that, I think it requires a paradigm shift around so many different areas. And money is just one of the, and our value, which is really the same thing. Total value locked is a big part of that new world. So
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's all about making DeFi accessible, right? And that's the new economy we're building in, this beautiful system that's been put together where, no one owns anything, and not $1 of taxpayer money was spent to build this beautiful system. And I'm excited to see how we're all going to work together. From our standpoint, our job is to educate, right? If you know somebody who has heard about DeFi through Rainmaker, through even something like World Liberty Financial, and you want to know more about what decentralized finance is, come on over. We're happy to educate you, and get you where you need to go. And we have multiple ways to get you there: the normal way, the quick way, and to be among the best of the best. So, before we move forward, I did want to mention a couple things from our partners that I wanted to push through. I'll put these in the show notes, but also put them in the chat here as well. First is from our friends at our partners at SafeYields. We had Felipe and the team here not that long ago, and basically they're having their Say token sale coming soon here in the app. Fjord Foundry which is an LBP a liquidity bootstrapping protocol. So they have a pre-sale for their Say token for Emma AI, which is coming out soon. If you're interested in this, talk to Felipe. He has a special deal for anybody who's part of our community. I'll post the instructions for that on Total Value Locked, as well as in our mastermind, if you're interested in getting into the Say pre-sale token launch. The others from our friends at Exponential DeFi, you know that Mehdi comes by regularly on our panel at exponential.fi. They have a webinar happening tomorrow, actually, at 3 p.m. Eastern, about supercharging your crypto DeFi yield strategies for noobs, whales, and degens. I'll also put that in the show notes if you're interested in going. Please register. It's going to be a great session. And you should learn a lot from our partners over at Exponential. Great guys. Happy to have them all part of the great partner network we have here at Beacon. One thing I wanted to talk about before I head into Rainmaker, don't have a lot of news to talk about because I wanted to really focus on all the great stuff that Rainmaker is doing. FTX.com creditors, they have voted massively in favor of the reorganization plan. Now, if you are non-US, this is good news for you. This should help the majority of creditors get at least something back from the FTX bust. With that said, I believe there's some issues regulation-wise for US holders for FTX.US. So honestly, I don't know if anybody in FTX.US is going to get anything back, but this is just for the offshore.com. So there is movement there. Other thing I wanted to talk about is with Wormhole. They announced their Era 3 is now live as of yesterday. This puts in brand new just cross-chain things that they're going for. Full disclosure, I am a W holder because I did receive a W drop. And this means that they're going to have cross-chain intents now coming through much faster, just transfers. As you all know, I am very vocal about the fact that I've always hated how long Wormhole takes to get from one blockchain to another. This has taken it to just levels that I've never seen before from Wormhole, quickly getting between Arbitrum and Solana, for example, in record time, which is something that I am very big into. So happy to see that. And then the other thing I'll talk about before we head over is with airdrops. So airdrops, the first one we'll talk about is at Sonic Labs, the new Phantom Sonic. You can go to our airdrop.soniclabs.com. I'm working on getting an invite code. Otherwise, you can go across crypto Twitter and find a ton of them. The other part too is Sonic Arcade. Apparently it's under maintenance right now, but there are 3 games. You have to play them 20 times per day. You'll earn points to get to the S drop, which if mainnet is coming in December, that means 6 months after, based on what we've reported, 6 months after Genesis. So around end of June, early July is when you'll be able to get your Sonic S airdrop based off of that. You a big guy in terms of Phantom Sonic or anything like that, JD? Is that on your guys' radar at all?
I mean, I think some of our team is. I mean, honestly, Chris, when you're running the company like I am, it's hard for me to have a lot of bandwidth. There's so many projects and amazing things happening. Like I clock stuff and I see the information, but we've got a team that's managing, various things like this. So
yeah, I totally understand.
But it sounds cool though.
Yeah, I'm in the same position as you as a builder in this space. It's actually, I think I dedicate like 40 to 50 hours a week doing research just because I have to for the group. But yeah, there's a lot to choose from. And that's kind of the overwhelming part for a lot of people who first come in here. There's so much to do and there's so much to see and just kind of get done. So definitely we'll hit on that in just a minute. Last thing I'll talk about here is with Magic Eden. For any of our OGs who have been in the group for a while and have been using Magic Eden, which is a leading NFT marketplace on Solana, they are having their airdrop finally sometime past October, but in order to get it, you'll have to have their mobile Magic Eden wallet. A lot of people have signed up for it. I saw a tweet where they mentioned that although Phantom, the wallet we normally recommend for Solana, has like 80% of the makeup of Magic Eden wallets, their own wallet is now in at about 30%. So that's a good sign for them. If you really want to convert those diamonds that you've been holding into this Magic Eden token, you'll have to use the Magic Eden wallet for that. And then with regards to, you were talking about how we can continue to farm and just earn great yields. We always talk about Airdrome here in our community. They went through a huge metamorphosis after ETH Denver, thanks to Coinbase and their backing on Base. We've been talking in our calls about how with concentrated liquidity, it's always been a Uniswap v3 game. Now with Slipstream through Airdrome and Velodrome, they are starting to flip. They're going to be flipping Uniswap in terms of concentrated liquidity volume here on base at least. It should be pretty soon because now they're up to 88% of volume coming through versus Uniswap v3. So again, if you want to become if you want to get the most of the rates out there, you have to be a VERO staker because that's the way that their model works. It's different than Uniswap where people just earn trading fees, but Unistakers still not getting anything. So that's really the argument where Airdrome and Velodrome are starting to win the race. And, we'll see. So if you're looking for great rates, of course, check out our Beacon Spotlight offering. We always talk about that every single week. Okay. And that's all we have for the news today. Let's go ahead and move on to Rainmaker and talk about JD's amazing project here. So what I wanted to talk to you about, JD, is ultimately, if you could kind of, you said, you mentioned 6 years ago is when you started with this. Give us a little bit of an idea about what was Rainmaker originally. I think it's a fascinating story. And for our audience who wants to learn more about what you guys do here.
Yeah, so I will say on the Magic Eden note, we did a mint on Magic Eden for
Oh, did you?
our Genesis NFT.
Okay.
We minted, I think, over 300,000 NFTs, 80,000 unique wallets. It was actually on base because they just started doing stuff on base too.
Yes.
So it's one of the most successful NFT mints that's happened on base yet. And so the people who minted this NFT, what they do is they have it in a wallet staked to our, we have a validator portal, which is Coin.ai. So
Yes.
people are actually running nodes, they're staking, they're burning, they're, participating in this gamified, validator mining system that we built out, for Rainmaker network. And so, yeah, we ran that mint on Magic Eden. It was super successful, worked with their team. They were great. But yeah, I think, not to take us off track, but I think there's something about, we, at the core of Rainmaker, where we started was like each human in the digital world and in our peer-to-peer interactions, there's a unique value to that. And how do we begin to quantify that and redistribute that, accurately? And I think with crypto and blockchain, it's the only system that's really built to facilitate that. So we originally focused a lot on social media because we thought that was a very right place, is still, I think, a right place to be able to understand there's all this value that we're generating there that's being essentially monopolized by those corporations who built those networks. Now, again, we get free networks to use where I can post content on Instagram and my friends can see it and comment on it. The downside is all the data that's flowing off that, and every bit of value is flowing back to Meta, and none of it really to me in terms of the value of my interaction. So we focused a lot there. We built an algorithm called Proof of Influence, brought a product to market. Felt like it just wasn't quite what we wanted to. Didn't quite turn out as we wanted. I don't think we found exactly the product market fit that we were hoping for. And around that time, we pivoted in two ways. One was we started building a protocol with my CTO helping to lead that, Joe Rhodes, who built Dragon Chain. He built Disney's private blockchain before that inside of Disney in 2015. So he's built a couple of protocols. So we utilized some similar ideas philosophically, but engineered a whole new network under Rainmaker that really is focused on putting the individual user at the center of it. And the thing we're most interested in is their unique identity / reputation, their behavior / data, and now plugging that into a network and a marketplace where we're looking at what is really one central question: what is the value that each human is contributing to train AI? And I think when we think about the data that's flowing, like in a Meta or in Google or in these various centralized Web2 silos, into not only for them to sell to other folks in the big data world, but now to train AI, it's a whole new world, right? So we've been focused a lot on, especially lately, on that AI reputation piece and saying, if Chris is inside of that network environment, we can see your reputation based on your immutable on-chain identity, reputation, and behavior. And I think that is fundamental that your users understand about Rainmaker Network, is those ingredients are the core that we're playing with. What's really cool on, like, say, Coin.ai and the validator side is everything we built out in terms of, each 29 days, how many new tokens are minted into on the network, how that's distributed to miners who are creating that value, or validators who are validating transactions. There's a dynamic system that's doing that based on your behavior. So if you're a validator and you get a bunch of tokens, and the token's not trading yet, but once it is, if you're just withdrawing it out of the network, you're going to be heavily penalized in terms of your earning power on the network, because those folks that are actually keeping the value in and staking it, burning, like doing the things that actually help to secure the network and improve and bring more value or keep more value in the network, they're going to be heavily rewarded, or they are heavily rewarded in Rainmaker. So there is this merit based dynamic system that I think really reflects accurately, at least in our view, the philosophical underpinnings of this movement of, like, if you're a bad actor, like, you shouldn't be rewarded for taking actions that are not in the best interest of the network and of all the other users or nodes or community on that network. And so that's on the network level. Run Coin.ai. Anybody can go and sign up, create an account there, and run a validator node on either their desktop or laptop device. Or if you download the Rainmaker app on iOS and Google Play, you can also run not only a validator node on the device, but you can also start participating in the gamified model training that we have running there on that product. So that's users actually like generating fun art, labeling it, or uploading their own images and tagging those images and using that to train open source stable diffusion models that we've hosted on the Rainmaker network. Where we're going product wise, like the future we're driving towards, like, very clearly, is again around two main areas, I would say, which is one, this idea of AI reputation and understanding that in a dynamic way, utilizing, what we have as a network, is I think one of the things that gives us an advantage over every other, or a lot of other projects that are kind of playing in similar spaces, because we have a performance hybrid blockchain that is super scalable, but it's also secure because it's leveraging the security and the hash power of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Base, and other networks. So in terms of the architecture, I don't know if people are familiar with Dragon Chain, but there's some similarities that in terms of how we architected it and mixing both permissioned and permissionless networks. Also, so some of the data around AI model training, individual users, PII, anything that involves an enterprise building on the network where there needs to be privacy around data, which is obviously a huge consideration as we go forward and you deal with Europe and regulations in California around data privacy, and also just the fact that obviously we don't want a network to just be a honeypot for bad actors, right? So how we keep the data anonymized or where necessary in permissioned containers. We also have permissionless layers of the network. So everything users are doing at a fundamental level, their actions are all being signed on chain with their own keys. So when you go to, and I think this is honestly one of the most decentralized aspects of our network, and I think it makes it one of the more decentralized networks that's out there at a core level. So like basically, Chris downloads Rainmaker app, he creates an account, he trains an AI model, he passes a KYC, which is a decentralized version, by the way, where there's PII is not held in a centralized server. There's just a hash proof that Chris is not in North
Yeah, it's
Korea.
just an email
We
and all
know,
that.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, or even if there's a doc verification piece, that all that is, it runs through a system that checks it, and then it's the PII is destroyed. But there's a hash that remains that Chris is, basically, again, he's not North Korean.
Right.
He's over 18. He can be trusted in the network to transact with and not violate sanctions or whatever the other rules are. So all of those actions, though, are written on chain with the cryptographic key pair that sits on your phone, Chris. But you didn't
Hmm.
have to do anything to create that key pair. You don't have to do anything to manage it. That's all being done or abstracted away so that ordinary users can come onto a product like Rainmaker, train AI, earn rewards, but they don't need to be deep in the sauce. I mean, that's where they need to come to TVL and say, okay, how do we manage wallets? How do we stake? How do we get yield? All that stuff. But for what we're doing, we're more focused on a product that, we could get millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of users, on a smartphone anywhere on the planet where they're connected to the internet, which is literally brings the entire planet online to be able to help contribute to a more decentralized AI future. And so I think that's where, kind of the arc of Rainmaker, we've pivoted as every smart startup does 10,000 times to find that right niche where we really feel like there's a unique opportunity for us in a market entry point. But I think the core values haven't changed at all. So, like, understanding the value that the individual brings in the digital world, now we're more focused around data and AI than rather than social media, because there was certain challenges around that where access to data and things like that are heavily gated with Meta and others. But now that we're focused in this direction, it's like we see a very clear, undeniable use for our performance Web3 blockchain infrastructure, which is the Rainmaker network, and still the ability to empower the individual. How do we increase human agency? Through a combination of AI and Web3, and those are the kind of questions that we're asking ourselves as that are informing. This is the product we're building, and this is our posture as we go to market with that product.
Right. So just out of everything, and it looks really interesting. While you were talking, I was signing in because I had set up a coin account earlier, and essentially this is what happens once you sign up and you have that available on Coin.ai. So I guess what you're building here is just a human powered verification network, right? With regards to AI training and stuff like that, and you're being incentivized to do so. So I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, for the majority of people who are watching this, who are brand new to DeFi or just learning about DeFi, what is the primary incentivized model here for them? So obviously they're using their phones, they're doing the DPIN style stuff where they're where they're labeling, they're verifying things. That's one method. Then here on the desktop through Coin.ai, they're running validation to get rewards. If you could just kind of quickly break down what those are on both platforms.
Yeah, so there's the phone is more for, again, you can run you can run a node both on your phone and your laptop and desktop,
Okay.
and that's what we encourage users to do is both. Um, the to access coin rewards, all of that's happening through Coin.ai, even coin that's being mined right now on Rainmaker as users go to pull it out of the system or be able to do more with it, like stake it and burn it and everything else. That's all happening on Coin.ai. So
Yeah.
I would think of Coin.ai as that kind of like one-stop hub for like staking, burning, like all the gamified stuff around validators and mining and coin rewards. And I would think of Rainmaker app as like that place where they can participate in quests, which are not just in coin, but also we've done, I think, like 40 or 50 different other digital assets as a reward
Okay.
for users to participate in training AI. So Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, Doge, like all kinds of different tokens, just because we wanted to, again, like, I kind of look at myself as being like, I want to unite the tribes of crypto. I don't want us to be fighting each other. I think that we have a big enough fight to decentralize so many of these processes that have been, captured by large centralized corporations, which again, they're not evil. I take a different stance. Like if you've ever been an entrepreneur who's had to build something, there's somebody like Jeff Bezos was in his garage at one point, right? He wasn't like, like conquering the planet as a trillionaire. He literally was in his garage. That's where he started. And it took him a long time to get here. Now, at some point, does the power corrupt people? Potentially, yeah. But at the end of the day, there's a ton of jobs. There's a ton of value that those companies have created. And I think it's not about saying, oh, they're so evil. To me, it's more like, no, but there is an evolution to building a better way in a new world. And I think for us as entrepreneurs, that's where we're always kind of looking at that next frontier that we're striving towards. And I think that there's an opportunity for us that are awake and aware and building or investing or whatever in this space, to build that new world. So I think, looking at the phone itself, you can be training AI, you can be running a DPIN validator node, on your mobile device, which again, right now it's doing more lightweight stuff like validating data and hashing proof onto those other networks I mentioned, the public networks, which is also what's happening on the desktop laptop device level. So that's, you're literally signing blocks, you're, kind of performing what you think of as more traditional validator
Right.
activities. We have some really interesting things in the pipeline that we're excited about in terms of the decentralized AI stuff that we've got coming down the pipe for this validator network that we've been expanding and growing. So stay tuned for more stuff on that. I would say, Q1 next year, we've got some exciting things on the roadmap in terms of how the infrastructure side of this will play out. So I think there's two sides of it. There's kind of like humans in the loop helping to provide value to any system, any company that's looking for a human to help train AI models or to help provide that human in the loop feedback, reinforce your human learning feedback, data
Mhm.
verification, data tagging, annotation, all these kind of tasks. So there's that side of it, and then there's the actual infrastructure side. So I think both are valuable, and I think for users to understand is like the coin token is going to drop here, very soon. We're actually getting ready to announce a date here very shortly, but it's coming. I'll just say very, very soon, like definitely this quarter and maybe even this month. I don't want to say a date because the PR people get mad if I jump the shark. We're not going to say a date, but but when it comes, obviously the people who are going to earn the most as validators are the ones who buy coin and they bring it in and they stake it non-custodially in a wallet they've claimed and connected to their validator profile. So if you, Chris, want it in your cold wallet that's never never touching the light of day, like as long as you connect that wallet and sign proof that it's yours to your Coin.ai account, you can hold assets in your cold wallet and it can be leveling up your earning power on the network along with everything else. It's not like, oh, we're just only incentivizing people to stake and burn, although that is heavily weighted in the rewards algorithm that the network was programmed with.
Okay.
But there is other things that we're looking at, like, are you actually doing other things that are providing value? Meaning, like, is your node always running? Is it signing all the blocks it can sign? Is it, are you doing stuff on Raiinmaker app that does play into your score? So I think we have the Rain AI reputation score, which is looking at a lot of these factors. Because again, if you're buying coin and you're staking it and you're burning it, like your reputation on the network is going to go up, because it should go up because you're a good actor. If you're just mining coins and then they're exiting as fast as they can out of your wallet off the network, like your score is going to go down. And obviously your earning power is on the network is going to go down because you're not a good actor on the network, So that's, philosophically something that that's at the core of how we built it. So I think that's the best thing that people can do is sign up on Coin.ai, create an account, download the app, connect those together, so you have that kind of one Rainmaker ecosystem footprint, and then you can be earning in all those variety of ways when the launch comes here soon.
Yeah, I'm gonna put this link here in the chat in the comments for everybody who's there. And we're back finally, thankfully, on Facebook. So hello to all our Facebook fam out there. I wanted to ask, just because I'm an IT guy, so you started off with the launch on Base. What went into the thought process of starting with Base, and why Base and not somewhere like ETH mainnet or anything else that's out there?
I mean, the biggest problem with ETH has just still been the issue of like cost, to
Okay.
transact, right? And that's for us, it'd be different if we were like a really like hardcore DeFi project. I would say like ETH mainnet would make more sense. But because we are more focused on, a lot of our users are from like frontier economies right now. So like Nigeria,
Okay.
Turkey, Indonesia, and these are folks that, like, some of them, like if we would have put a token on ETH mainnet, we'd literally be saying, look, you have to be crypto rich to like transact and move, and it creates this. It created like a barrier of entry that we for our project doesn't make sense, especially on the application side. The cool thing about having a protocol like ours that's interoperable, that can plug into multiple blockchains, it's already hashing proof on multiple blockchains. It's we could have a token on 10 blockchains if we wanted. Now I don't want the brain damage of trying to balance the liquidity and the arbitration that's going to happen between that out of the gate. So we're not
Yeah.
starting there, but I mean, we definitely envision a future where there's versions of this asset that exist on multiple different networks, and perhaps there is like a something on ETH mainnet. We originally were going to do ETH mainnet and then bridge to BSC, so we still kind of have your kind of more valuable token there, and then people can bridge it across. But it's just the bridging thing is a total it's a total wormhole. We don't love that. We don't love the not that we don't love wormhole, but we don't love that, like the potential issues that exist there. If you look at all the
Sure.
hacks and all the crazy
Yeah.
shit, bad shit that's happened, there's
Oh
so
yeah.
much stuff around bridging. So when we did the math and we looked around, and it was right around the time that this spring when Base really was just starting to rip and a lot of liquidity was moving from Solana to Base. Even if they're chasing meme coin launches, we still felt like, okay, like the Coinbase Smart Wallet as a product too is like, it's superior in terms of its onboarding experience from what I've seen, in terms of being able to onboard people that are not crypto native and get them transacting quickly, even on DeFi related products. There's stuff I've been seeing friends of mine do that I'm just like, oh man, this is like game changing, because now all of a sudden a normie noob guy can just come in and be like staking and earning yield on stuff, and it's really easy to do on Coinbase Smart Wallet.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff you had to learn and and go through, or I did, or our friends did, like that's going to go away, which is a good thing, because that's where we actually penetrate. We get to that 100 million, we get to 500 million, we get to a billion people, right? And I think that's where this thing turns a corner in a major way. So to me, like, Coinbase is one of those players that also is, at least doing its best to operate with best practices, and there's a lot of shadiness in crypto still. It's far from gone. I think that, ultimately it's kind of one of the weaknesses that needs to be rooted out, by our community as much as possible. It's just tough because it's not always easy to like really pin down. But there's a lot of good people. I don't like the whole crypto as a scam narrative, and I'm not a believer in it. But there are, just like everywhere in every industry, there's going to be people who take advantage of opportunity,
Always. Yeah.
and there always is. And so I want to parse that out appropriately. But what I was trying to say is, I feel like Coinbase is one of those actors, and they're not perfect. Like, are they a company and trying to make money? Do they always do the right thing? No, of course not. I mean, it's not. They're not a charity, but I do think that what they're doing, with Base and their ecosystem, it seemed like the logical, smart move for us out of the gate to launch our token there. The version of our token is not our network. We have a native version of Coin that runs only on Rainmaker network, and that's what I'm saying. For us to be able to actually have that be mintable on multiple chains is actually, very technologically speaking, not hard. The market
Right.
side of it is a whole different animal, as you know.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Yeah, and with Wormhole in their new era, I mean, their X-chain technology, Axelar and their ITS standard, Layer Zero and their OFTs, we have plenty of technology out there to make that a reality. That actually is not the hard part anymore. Uh, Crazy enough, so much has changed between since we talked in Denver. You're actually the first, I guess we'd call it the first deep in project we've had here on the show. So that's awesome. What I wanted to know specifically is, um, actually, I thought I think I saw a tweet where you guys are announcing an expansion over to the Solana side, specifically for mobile on with Solana Saga holders or users, as well as Jambo phone users, which, as you mentioned, they're on Frontier Network. So I think this makes a lot of sense. Um,
Yeah, so
what?
Solana, we've got something cool where I'm not even sure if the team has officially announced it yet, so I'm not sure if I'm supposed to announce it, but there is stuff that's coming down the pipe where folks that are holding that Genesis Saga mobile phone NFT, that you have to be either you have to have either purchased the existing one or already pre-ordered the next one. There's going to be a unique opportunity for those folks, because we also have the Rainmaker app available on Saga Mobile already, as well as Jambo Phone. And then we've been focusing a lot on, because we already had iOS and Google Play, so we've been focusing a lot on Web3 phone partners, and kind of going down and creating partnerships, launching our application on those phones to those communities as well. But yeah, I mean, we're working with Solana Foundation and doing some cool stuff with quests and other activations. And obviously, it's a little tougher to integrate with Solana when a lot of our stuff has been more EVM focused.
Right.
And but at the same time, I think the value of their community, and they've done really well this cycle. So I think to ignore it completely would be a mistake. And so I think that's why we've been looking to do some partnership stuff and other stuff with activating around around Solana.
No, we're actually very bullish on Solana because one thing we like to highlight, at least on all of our calls, is where's the hot ball of money, right? Base has been huge over the last year, and Solana is what I call the people's champion and the people's blockchain, because that's seemingly where a lot of people like to transact. Not a lot of DeFi, but a lot of crypto and DeFi-ish kind of movement going on there with NFTs and everything else you can think of. That's on Solana. So I think that's awesome that you're going to where the people are, because especially for what you're doing with Rainmaker, that's the key, right? Getting usage, getting people to use these models, going where people are is going to be, probably the biggest thing for you guys to do, not on like some smaller, probably some niche networks that don't get a lot of people on there, because you want to go where all the TVL is, right? And that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, 100%. I would say too, we've been looking at Airdrome being on base, and I'm curious. I saw your data there. I need to look at that a little more closely, because it looks like they're, in terms of liquidity, like heating up. Because obviously Uniswap has kind of been the standard if you're launching something on base or
Sure.
anything ETH adjacent. And our plan is obviously to have stuff going on with the Dex side there. But we've definitely, let's just say we've been very active on Airdrome. I'll leave it at that. But in terms of our own token, it's something we need to, I think, revisit and look at more closely again, as well.
Yeah, they just crossed 1.2 billion in TVL. Where this time last year we were looking at Base as a blockchain, miraculously getting to like 300 million in TVL after their August launch. So, yeah, just a meteoric rise. And what we tell people and they're curious about, is Airdrome good? I'm like, well, Base doesn't have a token. There's reasons behind that. But if there's going to be a token that could represent Base, it's going to be Airdrome, because the way that VeNFT dexes are architected, they need to be the largest dex. So betting on Airdrome is betting on Base, because of everything that's going on. Coinbase Ventures going in and buying a mountain of Airdrome token. There's all this there. So having that flywheel locked in, you have to be a VE Aero staker to get the full amount. Now that they have their concentrated liquidity slipstream stuff just flying, it's hard to ignore. And all of the protocols that
what
are
about
adjacent
in terms of
in
spot?
there.
What do you think about spot trading on there, like on the DEX side? I haven't looked at it. I'm just curious if that's data you've been looking at.
We have. There aren't a lot of perp dexes there yet. Ultimately, right now, I mean, if you think about perp dexes, the largest perp dexes are going to be GMX. It's going to be GMX. It's going to be JLP, which is on Jupiter, on Solana, and then you have Hyperliquid, which is mainly, it's a Cosmos IBC chain, but our front end is on Arbitrum. So I'd like to see something on Base that resembles a perp dex. There's some smaller ones getting off the ground. But yeah, I think it's still early for that. I think it's just straight liquidity coming in right now, because ultimately all Coinbase has to do is snap their fingers and we get hundreds of millions of TVL just flowing in, because they're looking to bring in more institutions, more family offices. I think I heard the rumor was more than 15,000 family offices coming onto Base that they're trying to bring in. So yeah, Base is primed to be, in many cases, probably the center of DeFi moving forward. Obviously, there are some things you have to think about with regards to how are they going to do KYC attestations, how programmable is the money, which is the issue right now with Solana, right? They have a lot of these token extensions where they can absolutely program money to do all kinds of things, but they also have all the great things like blinks, for example, which are the blockchain links that will be the ultimate bridge, I think, between Web 2 and Web 3, because you can literally do anything from like a text message in Telegram, or clicking a link on your mobile phone to transact on Solana quickly and very easily. So yeah, the future is bright for interactions specifically using Web3, regardless of the blockchain. One thing we're seeing too is that there's just a lot of abstraction away from the user and a lot of blurring of how things are just going to work, right? Because we have all the cross-chain stuff. We have the OP stack, which Base is built on top of all of their super chain stuff. Arbitrum has their own chain. Polygon has their chain with the chain development kit to have this whole lack of fragmentation of liquidity. It's all just going to be one big thing, and they can all talk to each other thanks to all these other standards. And it's not going to matter what chain you're on. And once they have that going, then I think like with you have with Raiinmaker, suddenly we start having protocols becoming app chains. And that's where we start seeing the beauty of everything going on, because then everyone can decide what's their economy going to be. Everything settles beautifully on the back end without anybody worrying about how that happens. Everything just works. And we're probably about a good 18 months away from that, I think, from just sniffing that, but we're getting there, which is something I couldn't say this time last year or the year before when I first got into DeFi. What a difference a couple years have made. So
nice. You're a hyper intelligent guy, my friend.
I appreciate you, man. So are you.
Yeah.
No, you're a visionary, and I've been looking forward to this talk for quite some time. So really excited to see what happens here with you guys. I have signed up, making sure everybody who's on this call, make sure you go over to rainmaker.com. That is a Rainmaker with 2 I's. Let me make sure I get that on there.
The peer-to-peer connection, buddy. Double I.
There you go. Double I. I like that. Yeah, check them out. Get the app. Get started, and get training. Really, ultimately, the beauty of DePIN is that you control your profitability in this space, right? Because you're incentivized to help train the system. And what's beautiful about just all of this is that code is law, right? So as things get trained, things get better, things get more rigid, things become more secure, and you get paid to be a part of that economy. And that's not something you can say about anything we have here in traditional finance or in the real world, if you want to call it that. Uh, so yeah, that's the beauty about DePIN that I like. What I wanted to ask you about as well is that we're at such an interesting intersection right now with crypto, with AI, with DeFi. Where do you see this AI narrative going here in Web3? Because I know that for you to make this pivot here had to have been a very interesting move from where you guys were doing with content creation and whatnot. So just very curious about your thoughts on this.
Well, to me, like when we saw, and I've been doing dabbling with stuff in AI and machine learning going back into the 2010s around my other kind of life in the entertainment world. So I had some familiarity with it, but when it really started to accelerate exponentially in the last 2, 3 years, to me it was like almost like, oh wait, this is the other missing piece. When you put this together with crypto and Web3, like this is the new world. This is the ability to empower humanity in a way that we haven't seen in maybe even thousands of years, maybe not in this epoch of human history. Have we seen the ability to empower the individual anywhere in the world to create their vision of what they're here to bring to the planet, which is kind of central to who I am, and then thereby as the founder, what Rainmaker is. And I think we felt called to jump in and say, okay, where is that organic place where the convergence of these two game changing technologies really is going to create these powerful new opportunities for companies and for people. And I think that to me, like once we got in, it was just no brainer. Like I think when you get on the right track with when you're building with a company, you feel it, like there's like all of a sudden stuff just like moves and accelerates. Sometimes you're like hitting your head against the wall trying to solve a problem that's not solvable, or to try to make a product have a market fit that doesn't have one. And I still think there's a value in the social media stuff. We built some stuff on the enterprise side that will probably get brought to market in some form or fashion one day, that we still think has a value. But ultimately, like we feel like this is much bigger. We feel like this is a unique opportunity. Like I talk about it a lot when I talk at conferences, and just looking at this renaissance moment for humanity that is possible right now. And I think, how can we as a company help to build products that help to facilitate that? And that's to me like one of the most important thing. Like the definition of a new billionaire is not someone who has $1 billion, but someone who impacts the lives of 1 billion people. And I think we have the potential to be that with at Rainmaker. And so that's our North Star.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely. That's such a fantastic answer. Wanted to ask real quick, what's on the roadmap for Rainmaker for the rest of the year? For anybody who's watching here and very curious, I know I'm interested. I know a lot of people are here very interested as well. So what's on the roadmap for the rest of the year for you guys?
Yeah, so the TG is coming very soon, which is that token generation event.
Yep.
Us finally bringing coin out like into the world. That's coming very, very, very soon. This quarter, and there's two kind of systems that we're working on technologically speaking. One is again upgrading that DPIN validator infrastructure, which we're excited about advancements we're making there. And it's so experimental, man. That's the thing I'll say is like everyone we talk to that are even huge projects that have raised 30, $40 million from the biggest VCs on the planet. I'm watching these guys just pivot because everyone's trying to find that like kind of where it is relative to where AI and Web3 and the real value kind of the place to be. Um, so there's that side, and then the other side is around just humans in the loop, helping to contribute to training AI, and where do we see, the combination of those two things too, like the stuff we're doing around DPIN and the model training. And I don't want to give away any secret sauce, but
Yeah.
we got stuff coming like Q1 next year in terms of enterprises coming on board. I mean, that's to me like you have to plug into real world value in order for like token economies to be sustainable. Otherwise, like we're all just trading casino coins, which again, I'm not saying that can't work. And it does have to happen in an early phase when we've had to build, we've had to like build this out. Like we had to build it from nothing, like out of thin air. We needed to manifest what is now this global, digital asset economy that's DeFi and crypto and Web3 and AI and GameFi and all this stuff. Like everyone's just building, but at some point we have to plug into the all the real value, formalizing that informal value. We talked about it earlier, and saying to enterprises or startups that are like looking to train AI models, or saying, here, I have a budget to pay humans to help me to train, contribute to the training of this model, fine tuning it, providing feedback, annotating, labeling data, all of those things. That money then comes in to actually, like, that exogenous value comes in to actually back the token properly, right? And now we have a sustainable network and token economy that we can drive forward into the future. That, like you said, it's an all-weather thing. It's not like, oh, when the bull run is here, everybody's happy and making money on their casino coin, and then when it goes away, everyone's sad because it's not worth anything. Well, it's because when we had the opportunity, you have to build and actually then, like, still do what ordinary companies that are not Web3 based are doing, which is provide real value to real customers in the real world. So that's, and it's hard, and there's a bridge to get there. And we often talk about, like, the danger of being in a startup is sometimes you're building a bridge and you don't know to where, and you end up building a bridge to nowhere, right? Like that old infrastructure project, whatever it was, New Jersey or somewhere.
Yeah.
um so, and it happens sometimes, and I could say that we've done that already a couple times. And so now we're hyper focused on, where are we building a bridge to? And we have a good sense of, that place we're building it to is somewhere where there's a lot of opportunity, which that energy coming in is going to benefit the entire ecosystem of users on Rainmaker, whether they're validators, they're training AI, they're doing both. The companies, that can leverage that community or that ecosystem, will be just as important. So that's Q1. The target is, onboarding and launching that, those enterprises on the network, actually leveraging, I think we're at 120,000 plus downloads in the app. Like I said, we're at
Wow.
180,000 plus connected unique wallet holders on, as validators on the network. So, like, decent user traction. We plan, or our goal is to see that grow, especially with the token coming out, exponentially. So, going into Q1, continue to grow the Rainmaker ecosystem, and then bring those enterprises in, which are going to just drive more energy, more value into that ecosystem.
That's an impressive number. 180,000 unique wallets that are connected and working on that. That's an amazing number. Congrats on all that success. Want to be respectful of your time, of course, and thanks so much for joining us. Can't wait to have you back on to talk more shop, because that's something I love to do. You're actually, it's interesting. You're interesting timing. I've been working on a little bit of a story arc for the last 3 to 4 weeks, where we're talking about something that people ask me a lot is, Chris, I'm obsessed. I'm learning so much about DeFi, through you guys. I want to do this full time. So we're talking about how to get a job in Web3 and what your skill set is. So I've already weighed in on what I think that you should learn to do and that type of thing. So want to kind of get your quick insight on, based on your journey, based on people you've hired, what are the things that you're looking for people if they want to be in this industry?
Well, I always come back to the old Nolan Bushnell quote. He was the founder of Atari, and he's one of my advisors on this project from very early on. He's just a friend, and he's like a Steve Jobs level tech pioneer. He's like, he should be on that Mount Rushmore of, if you had like the Gates and Jobs, like
Yeah.
Bushnell's got to be right there. And his philosophy is passion over pedigree. And it's something that I found to be so true. Like, when and obviously you still have to have skills, and you still need to, like, actually be able to do the job. But the people who are passionate, there's something that, that drives you to work that extra 2 hours, that drives you to, like, focus a little harder on that task or whatever. And even things I talk to my team a lot about, I'm like, guys, I feel like success is ultimately comes down to a combination of a lot of very, like, little things, like, adding up to big wins. It's not always like, and of course there is this things that happen, these big doors that can blow open, but, like, you as a team have to be able to execute with a attention to detail and a commitment to, like, excellence. And that's what we talk about a lot at Rainmaker, is like, again, like, yes, there's, we care, we all care about each other, but at the same time, like, we have to operate when you're a startup. My partner was talking about this yesterday, which I think also ties in. Like, every person in the company has to have the performance of 2 to 3 people. You
Right.
have to have that kind of density. And I think the mindset of people coming into Web3, you have to understand, this is not You're not going to work at McDonald's and clock in at 10 a.m. and leave at 5 p.m. And not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm not belittling that at all. I actually worked at McDonald's as a kid. It was one of my first. It was actually my first job, a summer job, was working at a McDonald's. So I've worked the lowest, not lowest, but the most entry level jobs you can imagine on the planet, to now running a company that's on the forefront of Web3 and AI. And I can say that the one thing that I could share with anyone is, like, you better come like ready to be passionate and ready to do the work of two or three people and actually throw down. Because if you're gonna if you want to build a place for yourself inside of a any industry or company, you have to bring that kind of value. Now the tricky thing is, like, which are the companies you should work for, who's really like doing things that you want to be involved with or not. I mean, there's, again, like anything, there's a lot of dimensions. But I would say starting with a place of, like, find something that you're really passionate about, or a team you're passionate about, or a founder that you really believe in, that you want to work with and for. And I think that having that passion is kind of like the fundamental thing, because there's going to be long days and long nights. There's going to be challenges you have to overcome that are significant. And if you don't have that other reason, like that other motivation, like, you're not going to last, because you're going to have to, it's going to happen. Like, you're going to, if you're working on a project that's truly pushing itself and striving like we are, like I'm a 70, 80 hour a week guy. Like, I'm not like, and that's just me. And I'm not saying I expect that of everyone, but what I do expect is, like, when we're pushing and it's time, everybody's in the trenches and everybody's going full stop. And if you're not, like, in my world, in our company, you're out. Like, either you're pulling the weight of two or three people or you're gone. And that's just how it has to be, because, like, for us, it's interesting because I have this unique passion and vision about what we're here to create in the world, and the urgency of the moment. Like, we have a finite amount of time as a species to make an evolutionary leap, and that window's right now. And so for us, like, we move with that sense of urgency as a company. So anybody that isn't able to kind of maintain that, ultimately a lot of times ends up just falling away. So I think the main thing is, like, find something you're passionate about, whether it's a project, a vision, a person, and I think that would help, drive you, through the thick and thin, wherever you go.
What an answer. What an answer. Follow this man. This man speaks the truth. I love it. Him and I walk similar paths, and I can tell you that that's exactly it. We put in the hours because we demand excellence, and people expect the same of us. So go out there, put your heart into it. We work towards outcomes, not schedules. And you work hard, play hard. And live life to the fullest, man. Unbelievable. Thank you so much today for joining us, JD Seraphin from Raiinmaker. Putting the website back up here for you guys to follow, Raiinmaker with 2 eyes.com. Check that out. Also check out Coin.ai if you're looking on the desktop side. Wanted to also bring up real quick before I let JD plug, is just, again, our partners at SafeYields. If you want to get in on the Say token presale, I'll have this in the show notes. As well as our partners at Exponential having a great webinar tomorrow on DeFi yield strategies for noobs, whales, and degens. Check those out. Of course, you can do that at our free group, TVL, Total Value Locked. Join us for free, school.com/beacon. And get your DeFi education. That's the other thing too that I tell people. If you want to be in this space, understand what DeFi is. We have all the resources here for you to get up and running, following in our footsteps, and we're still here. That's the main thing. We're here, we're thriving, we're building a community full of action takers. We're on our way to 1,000 active users. And enjoying our time here. We're just killing it here in Web3. And JD, again, thank you so much for being here on the panel with us. Feel free to plug whatever you like.
No, buddy, I think we've already said everything that needs to be said. You shared the website. That's the best way. Track us on X and socials. I'm Commodore Gonzo if you want to find me on X. But look, to me, I'm grateful to be here with you, Chris. I think finding people, I've been blessed in my journey in crypto to find a lot of people where there's an alignment of values and purpose. And to me, that's kind of the most important thing. So I think for anyone listening, just understand that you're not late, you're early to this kind of unique opportunity. I would say once in a generation opportunity, not just with crypto, but now with AI coming in the mix. There's a different level of what's possible, and let's go forth and build a new world.
Love it. Stick around for me a second, JD. Just want to say thanks to everybody who joined us today. Thanks for bringing the crowd. We have a huge village here watching today's call. You can catch us every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern, here on this show. Intermittent show for next week because we'll be in Salt Lake City for permissionless, talking and getting a whole lot of content to share with you guys on our TVL and our mastermind group. So thanks again to our Beacon founding members, our Beacon mastermind members, Beacon accelerator members. Can't do this without you. So with that said, we'll see you next time on the show. Beacons up, banks down. Take care, guys.